Shabbat shalom, everybody. This is Rob Shmuel, Rabbi Stephen Epstein, Rob Shmuel ben Yehoshua, or Rashbi. Love that. Rashbi. Well, you got Rashi, Rambam, Ramban, so Rashbi, right? Rob Shmuel ben Yehoshua. So it is. So this week's portion is Tetzavah, and we'll be talking about how the priests and the priest and the high priest and the priest get outfitted. You know, last Friday, I did a sermon and it just was very emotional for me. And I talked a little bit about, actually, I talked a lot about the deaths of that family, Shira, Kafir, and Ariella Bibas, and Oded Lipschitz. These people's bodies were returned, and how Israel is doing its best to get their people back, dead or alive, and the difference in values between our brothers and sisters in Israel, and they are our brothers and sisters. If you're a Jew, you're a Jew, right? We're all from the same tribe, Judea. Yeah, some of us are from Levi, some of us may even be from the tribe of Benjamin, who knows? But we're all one people. And, when something happens to one of us in Israel, they're keeping the land. Those are the people that are guarding the ancient land, and the rest of us are here enjoying our freedom in relative safety. We don't have to worry about alarms going off and having 10 seconds to make it to the nearest bomb shelter. We don't have to worry about people coming in on motorcycles, and attacking us and other innocent people, because these people don't have fill in the blank to wage a regular war. They don't do that, right? These people are terrorists. They worship death. They send kids out in suicide vests. They practice child sacrifice. And most of the time, I do my best to avoid getting entangled in political or real heavy issues. Um, and I always struggle with this. I mean, I'm a rabbi and I'm a devout Jew. I really am. That's why I became a rabbi. So sometimes I just feel like I need to just say what's on my mind. And the reception actually has been it was very well received, the sermon. As a lot of you know now, I am recording my sermons. There were some people that wouldn't, and it depends on the person. Some people like to come Friday nights, some people like to come Saturday mornings, you know, um, depending on your preference, and either way works. Um, and some people, I guess, show up Saturday, don't show up Friday, would like to hear a sermon on a Saturday morning. Personally, I believe in my practice is that Saturday morning is really appropriate for Devar Torah, and it's Friday night for a sermon, and it needs to be inspirational. So people that were coming, I guess, on Saturday wanted to hear the sermon, and rather than spend more time, we do a lot on a Saturday morning. I thought I'd record it. And I've been sharing those recordings on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, and it's also on my YouTube channel. And I've received really positive feedback from that. So thank you all for listening to those. Thank you for your feedback, and I certainly appreciate it. Okay, so let's talk about Tetzaveh from the word mitzvah, which means command. And as we remember, the name of the parsha is taken from a key word in the first, or in a lot of cases, the second verse, that kind of sets the stage for what that parsha is going to be about. And I always like to joke that if we took it all from the first verse of a parsha, then half the parshas in the Torah would be named Vaydaber, because that's how a lot of them start. Vaydaber Adonai al Moshe, Lemor of Moshe v'Aharon, and God said to Moses, saying. So that is an introduction to a lot of verses. So, we got to use a different word. So Tetzaveh, command. And what is God commanding Moses and Aaron to do? And basically it's to Moses. He's saying, okay, so now that we've set the stage for the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the mobile synagogue temple that's going to be accompanying you on your presence and wanderings and journeys in the wilderness. Let's start with an official way, a procedure that a formal procedure that where, the people of Israel can be served by their spiritual advisors, by the spiritual class, which is the Levites, and of course the subset, the Kohanim, which are the priests. By the way, just kind of a funny thing. When I started delving into Talmud years and years ago, I came across the term kahuna. Kahuna is, or chachuna, depending on how it's used, where it's at in the sentence, refers to the priesthood. And immediately I thought, I grew up in the 60s and, I remember those beach movies, right? The big kahuna, right? That was Frankie Avalon. And apparently kahuna, I don't think they were Jewish, but I think kahuna is also a Hawaiian word meaning bigwig or something like that. Anyway, the kahuna, the priestly class, gets outfitted with specific garments, white garments. And the high priest specifically, who is basically the epitome and the symbol of this new thing that we're about to call Judaism, the servicing Hashem. They wear the robe, they wear the breeches against their skin, they wear a robe, they wear the ephod, which is kind of like an apron, they wear the breastplate, which has the 12 stones in it that have the names of each stone, has a different name of the tribes. It's folded over. The name of God is in on a parchment is placed in there. Is it one name? Is it some of the other names that refer to Hashem? Well, we don't know, but maybe one day, and I like to think we'll find out. So it's that they've got the turban, this big turban, and its seats, which is this little crown thing, this metal gold thing that has Kadosh La Hashem on it, holy to God, which with turquoise straps. They tie here, they tie on the top of the turban, so it's held in place. And somebody brought to my attention years ago, well, it was in a class, and Susan was talking about how if you look at a picture of what the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, wore, and then you look in the ark of a synagogue and you see how the Torot are dressed, that's where they get it from. You see the Torah, you've got a sheet over the Torah, right? You've got this little plate, you've got your yod, you've got, crowns on some of them, and that's basically where it is, because those are the new high priests, kind of, the Torah scrolls. So it goes through a lot of discussion about how they're supposed to be made. So you've got three colors, the crimson, the turquoise, red, blue, and purple. Turquoise, crimson, and oh my gosh. Let's see if I have a note here. No, I'll get to you later. Turquoise. All right, so it's basically turquoise, crimson, and purple. And they basically are threads that are intertwined with gold threads. And that's how they sewed some of the garments. Think about this. Folks, this is 3,500 years ago. Yeah, I mean, today you go to a tailor and, they can twist, three strands of turquoise yarn around maybe a little strand of gold. Not so big of a deal, maybe. But back then, and then when you look at the craftsmanship that it took to put this tabernacle together, it was amazing. And apparently they pulled it off. Now, some people say, well, they didn't. It's all fiction. I personally don't accept that. I think there's just too much detail in the Torah, for somebody to just, slough it off and say, oh, it's just somebody's fantasy. That's if it was, that's quite an imagination to put all that detail together. And why the detail? I think I've talked about the fact that, years ago I went to Camp Ramah for a summer, and during that camp we studied one of the books of the Torah, and some people felt we were fortunate enough to study Genesis because it was so interesting. The poor kids that had a couple of years later studying Leviticus, which is about laws and stuff like that. I personally find this fascinating. And the fascinating thing I found, and I think we've addressed this before, is the fact that the Torah devotes these chapters to the detail of not just how to design the clothes, but the fact that they're being dressed onto the high priest, and the fact that they're being ordained, with the offering, and yes, blood, a little bit of blood in the middle of the right ear and the right thumb and the right toe, and splashing the blood all over the altar. And we're looking at this today going, it must have been a mess. Well, yeah, it kind of was. I'm sure. But it was important that these people be ordained for all time. Now, we need to have representatives, and the representatives. There is nothing more important. Think about this, and I'm just making a point here, than the priests and the ministers and everybody else. Yes, they are more critical to actually having to know the laws. They have a greater responsibility than the rest of us lay people, the Kiddush, Adat Yisrael, the congregation of Israel. And yes, that makes them special. But again, they're just kind of officiators, the same way a rabbi today is an officiator. The fact that they just focus on helping us serve God. All right. It's not like we need an intermediary to address God. And that's what's unique about Judaism. So, okay. Um, Thank you very much for listening. Check out that sermon. Let me know what you think. And thank you again for tuning in and listening to these Dvar Torot. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a great week. And of course, Shabbat Shalom.